Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Jack Hagel. Saint Augustine's University has been undergoing an accreditation and budget crisis. We've talked about that a few times in previous episodes. Now, more than 100 Wake County public school students are caught up in the upheaval. Juniors and seniors in Wake leadership academies take most of their classes at St. Aug, and some say the quality of the classes has deteriorated. They also say facilities aren't being kept up, to the point where teachers are cleaning bathrooms. WRAL education insider Emily Walkenhorst spoke with a number of students and officials about the situation, and she joins us now. Emily, good to see you again.
Glad to be here.
Before we dive in, quickly explain, what are the Wake Leadership Academies? What's the history? How do they work?
So the Wake County school system has several schools in its system that are what we call early colleges. So that is a type of college that basically turns a 4-year high school into a 5-year high school, the 5th year being optional. And basically it just has a full partnership with a college or university, and juniors and seniors or potentially 5th-year students at those schools basically take most of their classes at a college or university. They're often very specific toward a certain concentration, like health sciences. In this case, kind of a leadership-oriented focus is what these academies have. There's a young women's academy and there's a young men's academy. Together they have about 600 or so students, but the juniors, seniors, and 5th-year students number closer to 150.
And we've previously reported about the academic and financial problems at St. Augustine's, but for those who may not know, break down the situation there.
Right. So the university has recently lost its accreditation. That happened in December after being on probation for about a year. And basically, they lost that accreditation in December. They appealed that. They lost the appeal. And right now, they only maintain that accreditation through a 90-day arbitration period. Financially, that's the big impetus for losing their accreditation. It wasn't that there was a review of classes and they decided they weren't providing authorized curriculum or anything. It's mostly come down to financial issues, not, having enough money or money not being logged correctly. There were some questions about what happened to certain funds, and that's really been the impetus for this loss of accreditation.
So now it sounds like the problems at the college are starting to affect the Wake program. What are students telling you?
They're telling me many things. They're seeing some of these financial things firsthand. They're saying the HVAC system is fairly spotty. Teachers aren't being paid on time. For whatever reason, some of their classes have moved online. That's something that happened at the beginning of the semester. It was supposed to only be 2 weeks, and it just continues to go on. So they're crammed in a library. They're saying the trash cans are overflowing in the library. That's also where they eat lunch. They're saying they haven't seen any janitors in a while. Teachers are buying paper towels for the bathroom, and things like that. So they're kind of seeing that things aren't perfectly put together.
And the loss of accreditation also affects them too, right?
It does. So basically, when an institution loses its accreditation, students can't get financial aid there. That's a big one. That's mostly affecting the college students. But the high school students, they could always earn credits that would later be unaccredited. So right now they have accreditation, so there's not a huge concern about the spring semester. But next fall, these students are currently still scheduled to go to St. Aug, and if St. Aug loses its accreditation, the credits they earn in all these college classes they take will likely not be able to transfer. They're high school students. They're all looking to transfer to complete a 4-year degree somewhere, and they could be taking classes in the fall that may not end up actually transferring to a 4-year institution.
And some of the students are really relying on these classes, these free classes, to offset the cost of their 4-year degree, right?
Right. So early colleges kind of serve a dual purpose. It's to expose people to life after high school, kids who are really ambitious and really want to get ahead. It really provides an outlet for them to accelerate their learning, but it also is pretty critical for some of those students who might be looking at the cost of college and thinking, this sounds unaffordable to me. Maybe they want to be doctors someday, and the cost of undergrad is intimidating to them to begin with. So, we know in these leadership academies, let's say you want to get an MBA, something like that, you really kind of need to cut in as much as you can into the cost of college if you're looking at an advanced degree.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hear what university officials have to say and what the Wake County school system is doing about complaints at the leadership academies. Stick around. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. We're talking with WRAL Education Insider Emily Walkenhorst about challenges facing the partnership between Wake County Schools and Saint Augustine's University. Emily, I find it interesting that this campaign to improve schools is being led in part by students. What have school officials done in response?
So school officials begun communicating with families back in December when the university first lost its accreditation after its probationary period. And they've had meetings just kind of about what were we going to do in spring semester. And eventually they said, well, we're going to stay at St. Augustine's through the spring semester. We think we'll remain accredited, and so you won't have to worry about it. As far as plans for next year, though, it's a little bit hazy. You could stay at the university, but they could lose accreditation. You could look at maybe trying to send students to another college, but a lot of schedules have already been set. Who has the capacity to take on high school students? There's also the potential that they could just form another partnership, with maybe Wake Tech. That's one place they're looking at. But it would be a very temporary partnership, and they would lose early college status. And it's unclear right now which exactly classes students could take if they did that. And a lot of students, I think, are just really interested in having another four-year university permanent partner. But it looks like that could be a tall task for the fall.
What are parents saying about this?
So parents are actually saying a lot of the same things students are saying. They're hearing a lot of things from their children, so a lot of their opinions are formed based on what their kids are saying. And what I'm hearing is they're worried about online classes not really being sufficient academically, that their kids aren't as engaged and the courses aren't moving fast enough. And there's also just this concern about next year and, thinking about all of the things that students did to be a part of these academies. If you join a middle school, you take pretty rigorous classes, you do everything you can to basically almost graduate high school by the time you're a sophomore. And you take a couple of high school classes after your sophomore year, but basically you just accelerate a lot of your education in a tight time frame. It's a stressful time. You make some sacrifices. It's not a co-ed education. You don't have a homecoming, things like that. And, there's kind of this disappointment at the possibility that things could be disrupted for this upcoming year, that they might not be able to finish out the program or need to transfer or something to kind of just have that assurance of what their education will be.
Now, you spoke with one parent who seemed to be disappointed in the school system. What did she tell you?
So, April Miller, she's a parent of one of the students I talked to as well, Blair. And, they both kind of talked about how, they're upset that the district didn't move on this sooner. So we know that St. Aug has had accreditation issues in the past for several years. They've kind of been able to get out of those and figure some things out. And so they went on probation again in December of 2022 over their accreditation. And there's kind of this thinking of, well, okay, why didn't you start coming up with a contingency plan back when that happened, knowing that in a year, the outcome could be different this time. It could be worse. Accreditation could be revoked. That ended up happening.
And what are you hearing from St. Augustine's leaders?
So, they're obviously very, very focused on this accreditation issue. We know interim president, Marcus Burgess, he said he's hopelessly optimistic. I believe that was what he told us last week. And so, he's really working through this, but it kind of just seems like problems, still keep bubbling up, late payment, property liens being filed against the university. So they're still having some struggles. And Burgess himself told us, I don't necessarily expect the district to stick with us for this early college program next year. But nothing is final. Nothing is written up and put on a table. There's no formal proposal out there right now to make any changes for next year. But he's kind of sensing that there might be a change.
He also took a little bit of the blame for it, right?
He said that it would be partly the university's fault if the school system left. He understands.
So what happens next?
So the school board's going to have a meeting on Tuesday. They're going to provide some kind of an update on what they're doing, what they've been doing, along with the school systems. Basically, the school board is in charge of the contract, and the school system kind of figures out a lot of the details of that and kind of recommends something to the school board. So the school board is very involved, and they've been hearing concerns. Sam Hershey, one of the board members, he's been meeting with people, basically since these accreditation issues arose because it's in his district. And they've been kind of going over what's possible, what they know, what they don't know. And, as of this week, there's still some things they don't quite know yet. So we're going to learn more on Tuesday about what could be possible for the next year. And maybe what some of the plans are. They're going to talk about it in public session for the first time since the accreditation was revoked.
Well, we know you'll be keeping a close eye on it. Thanks, Emily.
Glad to be here.
That's WRAL Education Insider Emily Walkenhorst. For her in-depth story on the Wake Leadership Programs, visit the education section of WRAL.com. I'm Jack Hagel. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.